What I'm going to do now is inject some dye to give the water some color so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to provide different scenarios that can happen in the aquifer system. First thing I'm going to do is show you what happens in a sinkhole, represented here. If someone were to dump something into a sinkhole that would cause pollution, you can see the pollutants entering the aquifer, spreading through the cavernous systems into other wells, and eventually coming out at the spring. Okay, this UST right here represents an underground storage tank, which could be like a septic system for a house or a fuel tank for a gas station. And what I'm going to do is simulate a leak in one of these tanks to show you what happens if a tank is leaking on the recharge zone. So it's leaked through the tank, through the gravel, and now it's into the aquifer, into other wells, and eventually into the springs. And another example of an underground storage tank, we'll use this example here on the artesian zone. Now normally on the artesian zone, pollutants cannot get into the aquifer because this layer is impervious to water. But we'll see in a minute how the pollutants get into the aquifer. So you can see the tank is leaking. I'm going to add some rain. Now it's getting into the soil, and it's getting into this well, which is well number 6, which represents an abandoned well. A well that's open at the surface and deteriorated, so the casing is all broken. And you can see the pollution has moved through the soil, found the abandoned well, got into the aquifer, and now it's into the springs. Now I want to talk about two types of pollution: point source and non-point source pollution. Point source pollution is a type of pollution that you can pinpoint to one event. So in the example we had earlier with the sinkhole, that's an example of point source pollution. That pollution came from this event and that event alone. Non-point source pollution, however, is an accumulation of events. So if we get a rainstorm, for example, the rain runs off rooftops, off our driveways, collecting oil and sediment, collecting fertilizers from our lawns, and all of that running over the recharge zone can cause non-point source pollution. So what I'm going to do that is simulate it by adding some dye to the surface of the recharge zone. And as you can see, it's almost instantly affecting neighboring wells, moving its way down through the aquifer, and again up at the springs. So I hope what you get out of this video is how important the aquifer is to us. It supplies almost all of our water, and it can be susceptible to pollution. That's why we have to try our best to keep it clean, to not dump stuff on the recharge zone, to make sure that abandoned wells are closed properly, and make sure that active wells are maintained as well as underground storage tanks are maintained so we don't have leakage. And by doing that, we can keep our water clean today, tomorrow, and for future generations.